Hello, everybody. So excited to be here in the final wrap up of the 5 day challenge, the Beyond. Oh, no, Mindful March 5 day challenge. I was going to say Beyond Survival. That was the last challenge that we did. So if you enjoyed this physical and mental declutter, you will love the chat that we're going to have today because we're going to be diving deep into all of the topics of physical and emotional clutter, mostly physical because Corine's here with me today and I'm really excited that she's here. She's a professional organizer and and a great friend, and I'm thrilled that she's taken part and helped me with this challenge because I wanted her expertise through all of this, and I'm really excited. And so, for the first 2 days, I dove into the emotional and mental clutter portion, and for the final 3 days, she dove into the physical realm of the clutter and how all of that portions. And today we're going to wrap it all together and talk about the body, mind, home, environment, and how it's all related. Everything is intertwined and tangled together, and it really truly is. And so I'm excited to get started today on our chat, and I'm so delighted if you're here on the replay or you're watching live. I'm so grateful to have you. Feel free to join the free community. The link will be in the chat. And yeah, let's go. Let's get busy talking about all of bringing all these days together. So we talked about the emotional tabs running in your mind and looping cycles and the mental clutter and how that holds us back from everything we truly dream to be and want and do. And we talked about different things that affect our emotional capacity to hold anymore. And the physical stuff really comes in so beautifully because it's all intertwined. And so when our homes are overloaded with stuff, our mind is overloaded with stuff. And we know this because we just feel lighter when we get rid of things. And so we're going to dive today into talking about how this stuff all correlates together. So thank you guys for being here, and let's get started. Recorded. I hope you are.
It says it's recording.
It is now.
Oh, okay.
Okay, it's all good.
Okay. Awesome. Yeah, so I kind of just wanted to start with what led me to want to start decluttering. And I think it's a good foundational place for everyone to start is finding your why. Like, why are you decluttering? Um, because I find like if it's coming from a place where we want like the perfect home, we want it to be perfectly clean or perfectly aesthetic, I feel like that can turn into some burnout, and it can also be rooted in some like perfectionism and trying to prove yourself. So I find like really finding your why, like what are you creating space for? And so I like to kind of come at it from a place of we're creating space, we're creating capacity in your life for the things that really matter to you. So it's not so much about just having less things, it's about saying no to all of this stuff that doesn't actually matter that much so that you have more emotional, mental, physical space for the things that matter to you. And so for me, that was I wanted to be more present in my like daily life instead of my mind being on the 100 things to do list all the time. I also wanted more space and capacity for the relationships that matter to me. Um, that's something that I think most of us could say that connection is our most valued thing. And sometimes our the clutter in our homes or some of our mental emotional clutter can be distractions from the things that we actually really want. So it's more about just clearing space for those important things,
Mhm.
and even clearing space for the things you actually love to do. Maybe there's hobbies you've always wanted to try but you're like, no, I don't have time. Like, my garage is on the list, or like in the back of your head, you feel like I have all these things to do before I can get to the things that really light me up. And once we start clearing some of those things away, it's like you start to realize, like, oh my word, like I feel like I have the mental space, the physical space, the energy to dive into whatever it is that you've wanted to for a long time. So, and I really believe, I'm a huge believer that like physical clutter is mental clutter. I feel like they reflect each other, and what's in our mind can be embodied in our environment and vice versa. So when we start to shift something, like when we start to deal with some of the physical clutter, it's wild how I've noticed for myself that it's all of a sudden created capacity for me to deal with some of the things in my mind, or vice versa. You start to clear out some mental clutter and you start to realize, like, okay, like there's stuff in my life, even in my physical space, that I don't want anymore. That's not actually important to me. So that's a big spiel, but it's kind of like the reason why it's so important to me. It's not just an aesthetic thing, it's about the person you get to be when we remove
Exactly.
distractions.
Exactly. And I love what you said about the no, I've lost where you were. I love what you said about when you the stuff that you have, because I thought of it in a way of that you get to remove whatever you want and get closer to being you, is removing taking a look at each thing, not just like the clothes, like you try it on and see if it fits or if this is really you or is it frumpy. You can look at things and be like, okay, um, is this something that I wanted because I saw it somewhere on Instagram? Is this something I really want in my house because I saw it somewhere, thought I had to have it, but now I really, it's just creating clutter and that's not
Mm-hmm.
something that I want. But also being able to release the guilt to give things away and share things with other people that might not suit you that someone else could use. There's a lot of this, so we're not talking about throwing in the garbage, but giving away and thrifting to stores, and we're not throwing everything out necessarily unless it is truly garbage, but giving things away that someone else could benefit and having no guilt that if you got given a gift that you will absolutely never use, because
Mm-hmm.
we have this real pull and tug with the gift thing, like the sentimental stuff, the
Mm-hmm.
gifts. We have a hard time. We believe that the memory is in the item. And sometimes it's okay to have those sentimental items, but when if your house is just absolutely to the ceiling with sentimental things,
Mm-hmm.
we only truly need one or two things from somebody to embody that feeling of remembering them
Mm-hmm.
and holding them tight, their body. And but sometimes we do need that small physical item to remind us of that and bring us back.
Mm-hmm.
And so it can be really hard when we're giving things away or going and sorting through. Like you've seen the hoarding shows, right? Like
Mm-hmm.
it's a whole emotional battle of getting rid of
Mm-hmm.
things that are sentimental because they're so deeply rooted in the stuff is the person.
Yeah.
And so
Yeah.
what do you think about that?
So, yeah, that's something too that in myself, when it comes to sentimental things, something maybe someone gave me a gift, like they just gave it to me. I can appreciate them and have gratitude in my heart for, like, wow, that was so thoughtful. I appreciate it. It was kind. Um, I can see it for what it is and yet not feel the guilt to have to hang on to it. And I would hope, most of the people in our life are giving us things because they care, not
Mhm.
because they want to guilt us into keeping it forever and treating it like a treasure. I want to treasure the connection, not the item. And so, um, I think too, like with time and the more we declutter, you start to get clear on the things that are truly sentimental to you. Like I have a bin of sentimental photos, cards, things that people have given to me. So I do keep sentimental things. I find that with time I get clearer on which things are actually um hold a lot of value for me and which ones I was holding on to out of guilt. If we're holding on to something out of guilt, that alone, I would maybe just get curious about that. Like, why do I feel guilt around this item instead of just pure like joy or fondness from an item? So
Mm-hmm.
I would say that comes with time, and I think some people I think have a tendency to be more sentimental about things than others. Some people I notice it in my own family. Some of my own family, they're very sentimental with things.
Mm-hmm.
Others of us are a little bit less sentimental. I would say I'm a little bit of both.
That's
Um,
actually interesting because there's people in all, I bet there must be people in all our families because I can think in mine, certain people are way more sentimental and others just have zero care or love or appreciation for those things where some of us have like, and I think it has to do with the deeper connection you have with that person and also your age and other meaning that you attach to the items.
and another thing, I think a big thing is, are we holding on to this item from a place of lack or fear? I noticed this with some of my family or whatever, not even myself. It's like, well, what if, and this probably sounds crazy, but what if one day like we have no electricity, then I'm gonna want
Yeah.
like 50 candles, or I don't know, that's just a crazy example, but like, or we come to and I think to like say my parents generation, they didn't have a lot of things, so they're coming at this from an angle of like, we didn't have much, so why on earth would I get rid of all this stuff? Like, what if I'll need this one day, what if this happens and I'll want this, and so that if we're holding on to things out of fear or lack, that's another thing I would say to explore instead of holding on to something because it actually serves you, serves a purpose and brings you joy. So that's another thing I think I would watch for
That's a
as well.
whole nother level to that because of the idea of the lack. And I
Yes.
can totally relate because I grew up with parents and like my grandparents, my childhood memories of going to my grandma and grandpa's, which were wonderful people. And we used to go down to the deep, dark basement and to get grandma stuff. And we'd go and flick the light on in this pantry, and it would be floor to ceiling with
Yeah.
tomato juice,
Oh
toilet
wow.
paper, and crushed tomatoes. And then they had those giant, big, long freezers that were so, three of those
Yeah.
full to the top, completely covered in ice. They have no idea what's even in there, but it's
Yeah.
just in case. And because of the
Yeah.
depression, and that was the era that they went through, and they
Mm-hmm.
have to feel like we've got to hang on so
Mm-hmm.
tightly to everything
And
because I
yes.
might need it one day. And to the
Yep.
point where things are actually, you're actually wasting so much money because it's all freezer burnt. And I would have to
Mm-hmm.
go help them pull all that out and chip away at the ice and doing this like once a year. And I thought, oh my gosh, I don't understand it. But then as I grew up older, I actually caught myself doing this and I thought, oh, I'm my grandma. I'm my actually grandma. I went in and I bought toilet paper, six huge, one of those 36. I bought six of them because they were on sale and I stocked them away. And I thought, just in case. Now, this did come in handy during COVID, I must say. But
Yeah, funny enough,
any
yeah.
other time, and that's something that doesn't really, maybe that's not the best example because you can always use it, but all that food, all these things expired. Like
Mm-hmm.
my grandpa couldn't drink 100, and that's when we had the cans where you popped a hole
Mm-hmm.
up and poured it, and he liked just plain tomato juice. And it was so many were expired. He'd give them to us, and then my mom would just throw them all away. And so that makes me just feel like that whole thought of lack. And I can connect with that. Can you guys tell us that? Feel free to unmute and chime in and ask any questions you want now um, about anything, or raise your hand if you want to. If you've ever felt that you remember those times or that feeling of wanting things just because I think that a lot of people have that. Some people have this spirit, and I believe maybe it's more of the younger generation that could actually have this spirit of just like picking up and getting rid of everything and going because now that is more of the trendy thing to do. But years ago, there was no digital nomads and this and that. They were starving and, you know,
Mm-hmm.
hoarding and piling and stockpiling just in case. And through the generations, these patterns pass through.
Mm-hmm.
whether we think they do or not, until someone kind of breaks that chain.
Mhm.
And I think it's okay to plan um, ahead and have
Mhm.
stuff. I think that's actually smart.
Mhm.
But to the point that you're not, your things aren't expiring and you're actually throwing things in the garbage because it's to the point where you can't even use it. It's like where's the line?
Mhm. And that I think that's gonna be different for everyone, right? Like, yeah, I think like having some backstock of food and all that stuff, that's not a bad idea. It's really not. I've done that. But yeah, it's also realizing too, I would ask myself, like when I had a house full of stuff, thinking I needed, oh, what if this happened? And then I would actually entertain that thought and be like, okay, so what if it did happen? Say there was an earthquake or something. I don't know. Is this the thing that I would need? No, actually, that's the last thing I would need. I would need food and water, and that's about it. And the people that I love, and that's all that matters. And I think it was a huge wake up when our city had the fire evacuations a couple years ago, and our whole city was evacuated for wildfires. And it wasn't just me. Like I came home, realized how much stuff didn't actually matter to me. Because when you're put up to the point
True.
where like pack your car with the things that matter to you and leave, it's amazing how little you take. Like I took my sentimental bin and a few things, and that was it. It was like, and I had so many clients when we came back from evacuation that they all said the same thing. They're like, man, I need to declutter my house because I realized how much stuff I don't need.
Hmm.
It's a wild thing. That's more, a little bit more of like a abrupt situation where you're forced to choose. But it was so eye-opening because you really just need the bare essentials. And I'm not saying that you shouldn't have nice things or anything, but it was a little bit of an eye-opener to how much I thought I needed when in
Hmm.
reality I didn't.
Hmm. Yeah, I
So,
need I need a couple trailers just for animals.
yeah.
That'd be the scariest part, which is also
Yeah.
another thing
Yeah.
is knowing that you have, when we live in wildfire zone here, knowing that you have all these pets and how would you get them out and this and that. It makes you think of all the stuff
Mhm.
that you have and all the responsibilities. Yeah, crazy.
Yeah, so um there's another thing I was going to share. Oh, it was kind of attached to why declutter, and it not being about just having this like perfectly clean home all the time and perfect aesthetic. Um, for me, it's really not so much about that, although it's kind of fun to be able to decorate in a whole different way. But it's about like, I find being 15 minutes away from tidy is where some of my comfort comes in. It's like my house isn't always spick and span, but because I have so much less things and everything has a place, when I do have like company or I've got clients coming, I can do a quick 15-20 minute tidy up and my house looks like it's ready for people. And it wasn't overwhelming and it wasn't crazy, but like, I mean, I've done decluttering, like some serious decluttering for, it's been, I think, 2.5 years now. And it's a journey and let it be a journey. It's not a destination. I still have ongoing I don't know bins. I have a box in my car that Angie knows is constantly getting like things put in it. It's more of a habit than a destination. So just a
Mhm.
habit of evaluating and actually valuing your space and your mental space
Mm,
because
I love that. Value.
every single thing that we look at in our home, everything we own takes up space in our mind. It requires our attention to some degree, whether it's a plant that needs watering, a trinket that needs dusting, a pillowcase that needs washing. Like everything we own requires some type of maintenance at some point. So, um, I look at it as like those items then have to earn a spot in my mind and in my home.
Mm.
Is it actually worth that exchange, my time and energy for this thing? Is it giving something back to me? If not, and it's not really earning a proper spot, And even when shopping, it's like it's really helped me with shopping because I love shopping. It's like, do I actually have a space for this item? Like, is there an empty gap in my wardrobe in my home where it could fit? Um, has it earned a spot? Is it that important? If it hasn't, then I it's probably best I leave it in the store.
Mm-hmm.
I came across something the other day too that said if you, as you're going through your house, if you ask yourself, say with a piece of clothing, would I go to the store and buy this again? Would I exchange my money and my time and
Oh,
my
that's a really
for
interesting
this
thought.
thing? Has
Yeah.
it been that important to me that I would go do it again? And it's like, oh wow, okay, well that's a whole nother thing. So
I can probably say at least 50% of stuff that I own, I wouldn't go back and buy again.
it's fascinating,
Or
hey? And
more.
like it's funny, my mom always said this slogan to me, us growing up. She said, the more you own, the more owns you. Kind of the similar concept is like everything, every single thing you have requires your attention to some degree. And so when we are already kind of stretched with work, relationship things, health things, you name it, um, all the things going on, the stuff in our homes, it adds to that overstimulation, more tabs being opened in your brain.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
Yeah, that's what I talked about on day one was all the open tabs. So that's
Hmm.
super interesting. You brought it full circle. That's why we did this together because it's all connected, the mind, the
It's
body, the
all
clutter.
connected.
It is. Everything is so intertwined and tangled up. Do you
Hmm.
guys have any questions? I want to make sure you can ask any questions that you want.
Or any thoughts or any like light bulb moments that you've had?
I think for me that this is, I really appreciate that, Corinne, that it is a journey, it's not a destination.
Yeah.
And that, and you just said it then around that everything has to earn its spot.
Mm.
So, oh, Cat's earning his spot at the moment.
Yeah. He deserves it.
Yeah, he can have it. But I think, yeah, that's really important is the earning a spot. And I like that. I'm just looking around going, yeah, would I buy that again? Oh, maybe, oh, maybe. I had one question. Um, one thing I've got is that I have things that I've bought and they might have been expensive at the time, or at the
Mhm.
time I spent money on them that that, but I don't know if I love them now. So I find those things hard to let go. It's like I should keep them because I spent money on them, and I can't sell them or any of those things. So it brings up the whole emotional thing as well
Mhm.
of
Mhm.
waste or that I made a mistake. So yeah, how do you deal with that?
That's a really good question. Because definitely that still happens to me. Sometimes I go to the store, buy things thinking I really want it, and then 2 weeks later I'm like, oh, what did I spend all that money on for? Like, I don't actually like it that much. And something to ponder, I would say, is that even though you spent a lot of your physical dollars on this item and you don't really love it anymore, I would ask yourself, like, are you still paying for it in a mental sense, emotional sense? By it sitting there, guilting you, taking up mental capacity by just being there, technically you're still paying for it in a non-dollar sense, right? Um, and so I think that's where we give ourselves grace and be like, this was a learning experience of
Mm-hmm.
like, I really thought I wanted this thing and now I
Oh,
don't. And it's okay to pivot.
yeah, I love that. Like still paying for it every time I see it, or it's in storage and I'm still thinking
Mm-hmm.
of. No, I love
Mm-hmm.
that. Thank you. Yeah, letting go of that and the space that would create. Awesome. Yeah,
Mm-hmm.
thank you.
No problem.
That's an interesting thought with the when you spend a lot of money, Susan, because I can relate to that too, as I'm sure we all can,
Mm-hmm.
that you buy something at the time. And maybe, you know what, it served you for a while and it was good for a while and it was doing its purpose, whatever it is. So, you know, whatever. But when we spent a lot of money on it, it does feel harder to release, even if
Mm-hmm.
it's not serving us. And there's still
Mm-hmm.
that attachment that we have to things because, like in an emotional way. So it's interesting to kind of try and also figure out what that attachment is to that.
Mm-hmm.
Is it the lack that I spent a lot of money and what if I don't have money to have this again, even though I'm not using it kind of thing? Or would I use it again one day? Like there's that whole connection. So it's like,
Mm-hmm.
where does the, sometimes it's worth picking away at a little bit and trying to figure out what exactly is, you know, it doesn't matter what mode you were in when you bought it. You bought the thing and it was expensive and you needed it or wanted it at the time. But what is it now holding you back from either getting rid of it, or what is it that you are thinking is holding you back? Because there's so many more emotions attached sometimes to stuff than we even dare to realize.
Mm-hmm.
Especially if we grew up in a way where there wasn't a lot of stuff. There wasn't a
Mm.
lot of nice things. Money doesn't grow on trees, our parents would tell us. You have to hang on tight to everything. And you know, the money stories of, well, money comes and money goes, you know, like we're always in the lack. And I know that's how I grew up learning that money is hard to get. Money you have to work very hard for. Money will goes as fast as it comes. Hang on to everything you have, stockpile, you know, that whole thing comes into that play. So I think that's a lot of times what Susan said was brilliant. And what your answer was really brilliant too, in that it's worth looking at but it's also worth questioning the deeper purpose and reason behind some of this stuff just to see if there's anything more there, because there usually is.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah, and sometimes too, I think with the scarcity thing, I think sometimes we are putting some of our security in our physical items. The more physical items we have, we almost build this sense of security around ourselves. And I would say it's a perceived sense of security. A lot of the time that item
Yes,
can't
yes.
bring you
Not
security.
real security. Exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I think that's where getting rid of physical clutter or mental clutter, I think it starts to snowball into other areas because there are so many emotions attached to things. And um, so when we're releasing things, it's actually almost a form of therapy mentally too. It's kind of a interesting experience.
Hmm.
It's the
Yes,
unburdening
100%.
of yourself. And yeah.
Definitely. Yes, because we know this is to be true because anybody who has cleaned and decluttered, if you guys were doing that, either already had decluttered before or did it during the challenge, there is that sense of lightness. There's that feeling that you can't describe, but you just feel lighter
Hmm.
and you've released stuff. Like it's a hard feeling to describe. That's why I can only think of the word light, but almost like the feeling, whatever it is, that lightness that when you've removed a lot of stuff motivates you to keep going because you feel you want to stay in that energy of
Hmm.
that lightness and keep going and keep going and keep going. Well, that's how I feel.
Hmm.
And yeah.
Something I was just thinking too is like, what would I have time for if tidying only took me 15, 20 minutes? You know, what else would I have time for? Like, what would I do with the rest of the time that I spent dusting for 2 hours or trying to clean around things or looking for something that I can't find, or how much of that time would all of a sudden just be this open space where it's like, wow, like now what? Like what could I possibly do with that?
Mm-hmm. And I love that you have, did you explain that on in your thing? I can't remember if I heard you say that, how you have a box always going by the front door that, or in the car,
In the
that's
car, yeah.
the
Hmm.
giveaway, but you also have another box that is the I'm not sure right
Yeah.
now, which
Yeah,
might help some people with those more expensive things if they fit in the box, but if they're not,
exactly.
whatever. Um, but that I'm not sure right now. I might be able to let it go. And you just put this stuff, and I know because I've seen her boxes, and I says, "What's all this pile?" And she'll be like, "That's the stuff I'm not quite sure about." And I'm thinking, I don't even know where you get this stuff from. Like, where's this stuff even coming from? Because your house is really tiny, yet there's a room always with stuff. And I'm like, I don't even know where, I've never even seen
It's
this stuff. Like,
amazing.
I don't know where you're pulling it out of, but I definitely need you to come over and help me with mine because I'd have a lot.
It's amazing how, yeah, like 2.5 years in. And that's why I really like it's a habit. It's a habit that you're sifting through your things as a rhythm, and it becomes a flow of how you do things. Like it's not that like I'm gonna get my house to this perfect spot and then I'm gonna keep it perfect and it's gonna be great. No, because things always filter into your house. And so just this constant, it's like an ebb and flow and a rhythm of just sifting and asking yourself questions like, do I love this thing? Do I actually love it? Do I actually use it? But the I don't know bin takes a lot of pressure off, I
Mm-hmm.
find. It gives yourself some grace of like, I think I could get rid of this, but I don't know if I want to. So leave it in there for 6 months.
Mm-hmm.
And then go back to it 6 months from now and be like, oh, I actually forgot I even had this thing and I didn't miss it one time. Or
Mm-hmm.
maybe you will go back in there in 3 months and grab one thing and you're like, actually, I do really need this thing. And it helps. I find it really helps take some pressure off.
Yeah, I like the thought process, but in that I don't know box because it's almost therapeutic to kind of look at stuff for a little while. And sometimes we think that we have to make rash decisions, but we are allowed to ponder over some
Mm-hmm.
things. Some things have sentimental reasons, some things cost a lot, some things are just frivolous buys, some things are things people gave us.
Mm-hmm.
We are allowed to take our time and look at this stuff. And this stuff that is a hard no, those are easy. Get out the garbage
Mm-hmm.
bag and put them in there, right? You're feeling good about getting rid of that. But those special
Mm-hmm.
things that you're just not sure about, you're allowed to keep them to the side. And I love that you have that idea of the I'm not sure box because it gives you that time to have remove some of that feeling of like we do still have that feeling of guilt for getting rid of some things because a lot of times in the I don't know box is where gifts are sitting or
Mm-hmm.
or things that yeah you've spent a lot on but they're not even relevant to your life anymore. uh, you know
Mm-hmm.
yeah. And then and then also too with getting stuff from other people, it's like fun and exciting to get, like, say you had the box and you're giving me the box of stuff. And oh, it's fun and exciting to get all this stuff, but am I wanting it because it's good stuff that you're throwing away, or do I want it because I'm going to use it and
Mm-hmm.
it's going to take a place in there? Because I love what
Mm-hmm.
you said, that the stuff has to earn its place. So does all that more stuff we're bringing in,
And like the
a
whole idea
place?
too, sorry.
No, that was it.
Okay. The whole thing too about free stuff. It's like nothing is truly free. You might not cost you money, but it'll cost you mental space and time and attention. So is it worth the cost? Like, yeah, it has to earn that spot.
Yeah.
Um, I was gonna say too, a habit that I have found helpful to me as well with decluttering, instead of thinking about like the end goal and like this perfectionist mindset of the result, Um, I find choosing little spaces in your home to have like clear zones that are super easy to keep tidy, and they're kind of like your non-negotiables. For example, say like dining room table, that's an area that will always stay clear or something like that, you know? Or maybe like I have a little back room somewhere and make it super simple. And I find that when you have little zones like that are super easy to keep that way, and it's kind of your non-negotiable to yourself, I feel like those spaces give you inspiration for the rest of your home. Like, oh, this is my little spot of peace where it's just super calm. It's really like simple right here. And it's like, it kind of feels complete in a way, this little zone. And it gives you a little bit of inspiration to move on to the next little zone. Um, and then when you do your 15-minute tidyings, some of those areas, like the dining room table, for example, it's already clear. That's done. I don't even have to think about that. Or that little back room, it's already finished. Having little zones, I find in the house, help too, that are your kind of like easy to pick up, easy to keep, minimal.
Mm-hmm.
Kind of something I've done in my own head that helps
Yeah.
me.
Yeah. Thanks for sharing that. So then what's your thoughts on when someone has a partner who's a pack rat or a super clutter bug, and you are more of like maybe not a minimalist, but you don't want all that clutter and all that junk around.
Hmm.
How do you work through that?
Yes, that's a really good one. Um, so that can be a bone of contention, right? When other people's stuff is encroaching on your own space. But the thing is, too, by us, we're like overstepping boundaries if we're throwing things out that are not our own belongings. So something that I've kind of done is just focus on my own stuff. Leave all their stuff where it is, how it is. That's their responsibility. It's not my responsibility. What I have found personally is that the more that I've decluttered and just focused on all of my stuff, like some stuff I will clean out and I will always ask them, like, are you okay if I get rid of this or would you like to keep it? And to respect their boundaries because this is their items. Because that can create resentment if we're constantly throwing out somebody else's things. They can become resentful of our journey, which doesn't really help in the long run, anyways. But I find the more you just focus on what you can do, your own things, they start to almost draw some inspiration from it. I've noticed, anyways, with my partner that he just starts to declutter his stuff a bit more. And he's not as like into minimalism as I am, but I have still experienced so much peace just focusing on my own stuff. It's it's amazing how much you can still um experience the benefits even if you just decide I'm just going to take responsibility for my own part in it. I'm going to do the best I can with my own part, and it's interesting to watch how they react and not guilt them for keeping things. It's hard sometimes, but yeah.
Yeah, I like that. And I can understand that because I'll give you guys an example. I was doing like my armoire in my bedroom and I pulled everything out and I was putting stuff in recycling bags and different things and looking, and you know where an area that women we need to like go through your socks and underwear and bras and all that. I bet you have like 100 of them and only
Yeah.
things that don't fit or wires poking out. So anyway, I did all that and then I started going through the other stuff where his stuff's part of, and it felt so good to get rid of things that didn't fit and didn't look good and just were like yuck or old, or I don't wear those wiry bras anymore or whatever. And then
Mhm.
he come in and he's like, "What are you doing?" And I'm like, "I'm getting rid of all this." And he started opening his drawers and he's like,
Yeah.
and started trying things on. And I was like, "What are you doing?" And he's just started joining in and doing. So it does inspire other people.
Mhm.
But I definitely don't, I honor that whole thought about not throwing stuff out and
Mhm.
not throwing anything out that isn't mine. I think that's
Mhm.
really important to
Mhm.
But to by doing your own is the only way to kind of sometimes inspire somebody else to start getting rid of their clutter,
Yeah.
because
Yeah.
it's just can
Yep.
be hard to
Exactly.
live with someone who is a complete opposite of you. It's difficult
Mm-hmm.
to live around all of that, but it is more satisfying if you're working on your own stuff. But at the same
Yep.
time, it can be a hard place to be
It can
if,
be. It can be frustrating when you just want to get your fingers in there and like do it for them, but it's an overstep of, yeah. So I think the more we focus on our own part and our own responsibilities, they reap the benefits anyways. Like they notice when like, wow, the house is like not near as packed, or she doesn't shop near as much as she used to, or and I'm living in a more peaceful headspace. Yeah, I think it's
mhm. Yeah, I like that. Do you guys have any questions or insights about what you do or in that kind of area of kids or partners or anything? I want to make sure we can answer any questions. Or if you're just happy listening, that's totally fine too.
Mhm.
But definitely, oh, Suzanne, yes.
Um, I have a problem. I mean, I don't have a problem in decluttering, but I have a problem where things are sentimental
Mhm.
and expensive at the same time. Um, I realize that our life now is very different from what it was. So I have things like my mother's expensive dinner set that I
Mhm.
don't think my son is going to want, but I don't want to get rid of it either.
Mm,
Mm.
that's a good question. Um, I think that would be almost in like your I don't know pile. Something that I've done too with some sentimental things is take a picture of it. So with a photo, you still have the memory. Um, but that's tough. Like dishes, I feel like dishes, especially from like our parents, can be quite sentimental. Yeah, I could definitely see why that would be hard, especially if they're expensive and sentimental.
Can I
Um,
chime in on this for one second?
yes, go for it.
Because I've had a lot of experience with this because I'm kind of the granddaughter that liked all the antiques and loves my grandma's things, and it means a lot, and they're expensive and they're special. And I have had to decide when we downsized what meant the most to me. And so I chose to keep just the teapot and the creamer and the sugar container from that special set and let the rest of it go, because I
Mm,
knew that I'm not going to use 18 plates and I'm not going to use all these giant porcelain
that's a good idea.
um, cookware and things that went with it. Like it was an expansive thing. And then I kept this other set that would fit in the cabinet, but I couldn't fit it all. I was able to give my daughter the rest of some pieces. And then this other set that I have, I sold it on Facebook or I gave it away or whatever I did. I can't remember at the old house, but I kept the stuff that was really meaningful, like kind of special that I really wanted to carry on, because what if my one of my sons did want that, and even if they didn't, I'd probably give it to them because and say that this is special, this is for your daughter or your son if they want it. And just that couple little special pieces of the thing. Or I like your idea of a photo, but sometimes a small tangible little thing about it,
Hmm.
about the something, you know. There's this, okay, I have these most vivid memories of me and my grandma cooking in her kitchen in the specific road in the specific town. Growing up, I don't know how little I was. I maybe like between like 5 and 10, all those years. And she used to have this little stool where she would teach me how to cook and bake, and I would stand on this little stool, and she used to put this little apron on me, and it was like this checkered smocked apron, and I just absolutely loved it. And so she gave me all sorts of dishes, and she gave me all sorts of like expensive trinkets, because that was the era of the china cabinets with those special collections of all of the people and the whatever they were, all the little stuff. And I wanted to keep it all. Everything meant so much. I felt like I was so connected to my grandma through this that I just, everything meant so much. So what could I keep? And I thought, what if I keep this small little red apron that just reminds me of all of the aspects of her, but
Mm.
it's soft and small and can be rolled up and put away, and I can look at it when I want to look at it,
Mm-hmm.
instead of all the stool and the dishes and
Mm.
the whole collection of the little people and these
Mm-hmm.
things that she, remember those little things with the porcelain flowers that she had a
Mm-hmm.
million of those, and she wanted me to have all that. And I had it for a long time when I had more room, but eventually I had to just pick that really special piece that I could just look and just everything would bring back. So I don't know if that's helpful.
Um, One thing I would say, I grew up with parents that had things for every day and parents for things that were good. Um, Now I say use your good stuff. Don't just leave it
Mm-hmm.
sitting there. And
Mm-hmm.
also we keep things for, if you like, in the future, that rainy day when we might need something.
Mm-hmm.
I've come to the realization that today is the rainy day.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I love that. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, use the
Yeah.
stuff.
Yeah, like burn the candle, use the fancy dishes.
Hmm.
Yeah, totally. Yeah, I love that.
Yeah, I
So
just
true.
experienced this, Suzanne, the other day, just the other day, because we had went down a few months ago and my grandma was going into a home, and I shared this in the group about some other call, and I inherited her dining room table. And it meant a lot. And we it was something that was great because we wanted to get rid of the other one. And this one was, but it's mint condition. She kept it from, it's made in like 1955, stamped on the bottom. She's had the soft cover on it with the plastic over it for like, 50, whatever, how many years that is. And I grew up eating at it. And so I thought, yes, I'd like that table. I'll swap mine, willing to get rid of my other one. And then I noticed that as soon as I brought it home, I covered it with all that stuff because I just wanted it to be perfect. And I was talking to my other grandma, and she says, I said, I sure wish, I just want to leave it wood. I want the wood showing, and I want it really clean and simple with just something in the middle, and I don't want all this clutter. And she says, well, why don't you take that stuff off? And I said, because when the sun beats in, we have massive windows in this log house, and the sun beats in, and everything that has been in its way has discolored. Like there'll be a big shape if I left anything on the table of a sun fading spots all around it. And she's like, and you just need to live. We're pulling this tablecloth off. Who cares? You don't have to keep maintaining that
Hmm.
perfectionist
Like
standard.
saving this thing, yeah.
Yeah, to keep it perfect for my kids that may never appreciate it or care about it, or their kids that may never appreciate it or care for it. So why not just use the thing? If it gets sun bleached, it gets sun bleached. If the cat scratches the chair a little bit, whatever. I mean, if I'm that fussy, I can recover it. And if not, like just live. And I just thought that when you said eat off the dishes and utilize your stuff. And yeah, I know. But then there's that other thought that goes with the emotional side that says, but if it's damaged, I feel guilt that I didn't keep it perfect like my grandma did for that many years. That there's that side of the coin with all of this stuff. And so it's just such a balance, isn't it? We say, oh, eat off the things, and then somebody cracks the dish in half. And if we're that attached to the items,
Mm-hmm.
we're really upset about it. So it's the actual attachment part
Mm-hmm.
that's so significant,
Mm-hmm.
not the broken mug.
Mm-mm.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, this has been really eye-opening, you guys. Do you have anything questions you want to say or ask? before we wrap up? Resistance to change.
Mm.
I don't know how to say your name. Moo Eyes, I don't want to wreck it. It's beautiful. Resistance to change. Yes. So much resistance. Yet we want change, and change is inevitable. Yet we're just so much resisting on moving forward because of the feelings. So all of this whole thing, if we wrap up what we're saying, is comes down to the feelings that we have with the stuff, the feelings that we have when we release the stuff, we feel the feelings we have when we're not sure if we're ready to release the stuff. It's all in our mind. The feelings of lack connected to the stuff, the sentimental thoughts around the stuff, every single thing comes back to the thoughts. And
I would say too, like, um, instead we tend to focus on what we're saying no to, or what we're throwing out, or what we're giving up. It can feel like you're giving things up. But instead of focusing on what we're saying no to, try to go beyond the no to the yes, and what I'm actually saying yes to by saying no to this thing. By
mm,
releasing this thing, I'm actually inviting more into my life. It's actually it's a weird, it's kind of a paradox. Like, by decluttering, we're inviting more into our life. So it's this
mm,
illusion that less is actually more, more of other
so
things, more of
true.
other people, more of connection, more of what we actually love.
Less time cleaning, more adventures, more spontaneity. We're inviting more lightness, more, spaciousness
Mhm,
everywhere, the mind
mhm.
and the home and
Yeah,
our clothes, which we haven't even tapped in on today. I wanted to talk about the
the wardrobe.
the whole closet thing,
Oh
but
yeah.
let's talk about that for a few minutes.
Okay.
Um, but yeah, I love that about saying yes. That's a great thing to say.
It's about, like, the yes is almost like the no is like you're stuck in a box. Like, if I say no, now I've gotten rid of something that I love, but it's about opening the box and having no ceiling. The yes could be so big.
Hmm.
The possibilities, yeah.
So I don't want to go on and on about the clothes or anything, but to wrap up the kind of things, the challenge, what would you say are your best um, tips with the clothes? Because that last video was quite overwhelming for some people. I got a few
Yeah.
messages saying that was like a lot, but so exciting to do it, and they can't wait to do it and discover what is truly them. And
Hmm.
I'm having fun with it myself. So, like, is there anything you want to add to the whole capsule wardrobe creation part?
I
And
mean, I could totally see how it's so overwhelming. I mean, I would say do it in pieces. If it's like daunting, I mean, depending on the size of your closet, I mean, some of us have walk-in closets that are massive and that are full. Um, so it depends on your situation, but I would say bite-sized pieces. Like, take your time and let it be fun. Let it be like a self-discovery instead of this daunting, grueling, like pressured task. Um, it's weirdly enough, I actually started with my closet years ago. That was the first thing. It was so crammed with clothing. It was wild. And you just do it in bite-sized pieces. If the taking everything out is too much, or even like one section at a time, like, let's go through my work wardrobe. Let's leave everything else
mm,
the way it is. Just take out your work clothes. Decide your top 10 favorites, and then add some accessories to it, and just do it a little bit at a time, and allow it to take time.
mhm. Oh,
And
accessories. I went through all of my accessories And I really had a hard time with that. I had a
Yes.
hard time thinking, well, this I might want to upscale, up level some outfits, and I don't want to get rid
Mhm.
of too much stuff. But you know what felt really good is getting rid of all the junk jewelry that is,
Like the tarnished
yeah, the stuff
costume
that's so cheap
jewelry.
that just turns kind of coppery color, and
Yeah.
you're
Mhm.
not really into it anymore, and or getting rid of stuff styles. But I felt like I I actually grabbed, you guys, you wouldn't believe this. I grabbed the whole tower that these jewelry thing was on, and I threw all of it was hanging there, and I looked through the things, and I grabbed the whole tower with the stuff on it and threw it in the to-go box. It was
Nice.
so tangled. I thought, when am I ever
Wow.
going to sit here and untangle 100 necklaces? And you
That
know,
you
when I
don't love that much.
that I don't love that much, that I had
Mhm.
duplicates of, even because of my old store, the boutique store
Mhm.
that I had. And so I thought, no, somebody else can have fun, take this whole thing and pick away
Mhm.
and find all the beautiful stuff that is them. And I'll just I just felt so much lighter, and I freed up a whole spot
Mhm.
on my little table that I have my jewelry. And I went through and got rid of any of my, I have a whole bunch of watch bands. I got rid of any that were like faded or dirty looking or whatever. And I
Mhm.
thought, well, they're like $1 each now. Like, why am I hanging on to this old watch band that's dirt, like almost dingy, that I've washed,
Mhm.
when I can get 3 for like $5 on Amazon? And I thought,
Mhm.
no, this has got to go. And that was really freeing. But
Mhm.
the closet is harder, because we have
It
this
is
thing in our
tough.
mind where, what if we have to go somewhere and be dressed a certain way, or what if we get invited to this,
Mhm.
and we forget that, we can go out and get a new outfit.
Exactly, and most of the
Sometimes.
time, yeah, I find when we have an event, we wanna go buy something new anyways, because probably the stuff we have isn't quite what we want anyway.
Hmm.
Typically, that's how it happens, but, um, yeah, I can't remember what I was gonna say. Oh, and if you just wanna percolate on the first, like, 2 steps of the capsule wardrobe, like, where you're just brainstorming, like, what your words are for what you want your style to be, where you're Pinteresting and looking at magazines, and you're getting creative about, like, "What do I like?" Notice when you're in the store and you like someone's jacket, or, like, notice things, and maybe that'll take you a couple months of just, like, exploring, like, "What do I like? What am I drawn to?" Maybe I love orange and I've never allowed myself to wear it, or whatever that is.
Hmm.
Maybe the process takes you a couple years, and it's the thing, it's a constant, it's a journey, and we change. That's the thing too. As humans, we're constantly changing, our taste is changing, we're growing, we're drawn to different things, and that's okay. So from when you start your closet journey, it's going to be an evolving into what feels the most authentic to you.
Hmm. And we love to get new things. And so we need to create space for those new things by getting rid of other things. But one tip I have for you guys is that what I have learned to do, because this is a learning experience, is when you're shopping and buying something online, what I do now is I put things in my cart and I leave it there. I don't shop at night laying in bed, because that's when I make the worst purchases ever. I just put stuff in my cart, and I
Mhm.
come back to it a week later or 2 weeks later, and I say, do I really need this? Is this my
Mhm.
style? Do I really want this? And I've been able to delete so much stuff out of my cart that I
It's
don't need,
amazing.
don't
Yep.
want. Those books aren't even relevant anymore.
Mhm.
Um, I'm glad I didn't get that. And I'm looking, yeah, this looked so nice, but I think, yeah, it's just not.
Sometimes even just one day, you gain a new perspective in the morning, and you're like, "Oh, why did I want that? I don't think I want that." It's amazing how, yeah. And yeah, with shopping, something that I've found helpful too, I would say over time, as we get our capsule wardrobe a little bit more to where we want it, we start to notice the gaps of, like, oh, like, this is something that I don't have that I really do need. And something that I like to do is I make a want list of the clothing that I want, the house stuff that I want, And it makes it a bit nicer when you're shopping to try to challenge yourself. Like, was this on my want list?
Mm,
Like,
good
if it's on
idea.
my want list, there's a good chance there's actually a gap there that I could fill.
Mhm.
And we get a lot pickier about the things that we end up bringing home. I have found that I still shop, but I would say that my shopping is a lot more intentional.
Yeah.
Yes, want
Suzanne
and
says,
need, exactly. So true.
yes, exactly.
Wants and needs
Okay,
are different. And then, when we have our want and list, we can make a wants and needs list. Like, what do we actually need and what is just a want, and that can help us prioritize too, for sure.
yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, so much to ponder. I mean, we could really go on. We might have to make a one just on like clothes one day,
Yeah,
just
capsule
because it's
wardrobing. I would
so
say that's probably
so
one of the
big.
harder areas. Yeah.
Yeah. And I know I'm trying to work towards that, but I'm noticing that there's no rules with this. Like people make their own
No.
rules. You don't have to follow them. Like so my capsule wardrobe is not tiny,
Mm-mm.
but it's not huge.
Mm-hmm.
But I want it to kind of the pieces to go. And so there was pieces in there that I thought, oh, I know exactly what's going to be so critical to my capsule wardrobe. These really nice jackets that I had bought two of them, same
Mm-hmm.
size. And I tried them both on and both the sleeves are like way too short. And I thought, now I can't even wear these. So these are out.
Mm-hmm.
And you can have your what you think is in there and you're going to wear one day. It's half the time it doesn't even fit right or look. It's not that what you think it's going to look like on or be
Mm-hmm.
that perfect thing, and sometimes it is. So it's really important to try the stuff on and see if it's still you. And I know it's hard if people are in a weight loss journey because then they don't know
Mm-hmm.
what to keep, and it's
Mm-hmm.
someone said something about
Yeah.
that, and
Mm-hmm.
um
Yeah, give
that's
yourself time and grace and let it, yeah, let it be fun. Yeah.
mm, yeah.
There's one thing I've done with wardrobes before, and that is to turn your coat hangers all one way. And
Yes.
then at
Mm.
the end of the season, if you haven't taken it out and turned your coat hanger around, why are you keeping that item?
Yes. Yes, exactly.
Oh,
Love it.
so smart.
Yes. Yeah, that's brilliant. That's a really good way to do kind of your own evaluation on yourself, what you're even drawn to. You can actually, it gives you a picture of what you're
Mhm.
naturally drawn to. That's pretty cool.
Yeah.
Great idea.
Yeah. And also not just the colors and stuff, but are we drawn more to comfort? Are we drawn to dressing up? Are we keeping clothes from a job that we just think we're never going to go back to and work in that kind of profession? And we have all this like special stuff just for that, like, and we're hanging
Mhm.
on to it just in case, but you really kind of know it's not going to happen. And then you don't have room for all the nice things and the
Mhm.
things that you want to wear. So yeah, it's
Yeah.
such a
And I find too with wardrobe, that's where the I don't know bin is really handy because clothes can be really hard to get away, like get rid of, I find for me anyways. So the I don't know bin has been huge for me. And sometimes it's overflowing, the I don't know bin. But it does help take some of the pressure off for sure.
awesome. Does anybody have any questions before we wrap up, you guys? Oh, Muaz says, I want to be present in the situation and respond better with honesty. Oh, with honesty, but I get over self-conscious and is how I'm behaving, and I want to lessen it, but still can't do besides being conscious. Are you referring to when you're the clothes thing or in just in your mind? Are you able to unmute? Oh, in social media. Oh, I want to be present in the situation and respond better with honesty, but I get over. Oh, social situations.
Oh, okay.
Oh, okay, okay. I want to lessen it, but still can't do besides being conscious.
Like kind of
Are we
like,
talking about boundaries here and when things are like your how you're responding to people when you're saying yes when you really want to say no and that kind of thing?
Yeah, yeah.
Okay. Good
Like I
question.
want to be honest about if I didn't understand something and someone is telling something to me, but still I don't tell him honestly. I will lie most of the times. I want to tell no, but still I say yes, even though I don't understand what other person is saying.
Mm.
My volume is really low for some reason. I could only hear the beginning of that
Like, do
question.
you kind of feel like you feel like you have to please other people?
Maybe in the past I have done, but now actually I want to change it, but still unable to do so. And
Yeah.
that strong anxiety kicks in at that moment.
Anxiety. Oh.
Even if I want to be honest, I am unable to be there.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I
Yeah.
can identify with that. Actually, that's been a struggle that I've had for a long time, struggling to be honest and actually state your opinion.
I think
Yeah.
it's a journey and that you just have to, you know, it's a journey we've all been on for so long that it takes time to kind of get into that space of honoring your truths and your values and responding from a place of true alignment with yourself and knowing that that's okay and that you can respond in the way that suits you. And it's so hard sometimes because we're always trying to make sure that everybody else is okay and that our response is okay with you, you know. Are you okay with that? Is that good? You know, instead of just speaking our truth and being
I think
100%.
there's, sorry.
Oh, go
Um,
ahead.
I think there's like, for me anyways, what's underlying is like we fear rejection and judgment. So we don't, and I wonder too, like something maybe to ask yourself is like, when in the past, or maybe when in my upbringing, was my honesty not welcome? Like, where was it not received before? You know, why is it that I have this tendency to not to be afraid of being honest? Because that is something that I've struggled with for a very long time. So
Mm-hmm.
I get it. And I think like for me, it's definitely rooted in like a fear of rejection and abandonment or neglect. And, you know, in childhood when maybe like my person, like my opinions or things like that weren't necessarily welcome or received very well. Sometimes those patterns I feel like are learned. I don't know if that helps or not, but it's something that I've definitely experienced.
For me,
Yeah,
I now speak my truth, but I put them as I thinks, and therefore somebody really can't object to that.
Mm,
I also read something last night where it said, you know, we're afraid of rejection from other people.
mm-hmm.
How long do they actually think about the other person? We don't. We tend to
No.
think about us. So it might
Mm-hmm.
be for a minute they're horrified, but 5 seconds later they're not. They've forgotten about it.
Mm-hmm.
That's so true. Yes. So, so true.
Did that help at all or not? Or is there something else you wanted to add?
yeah,
That helped? Yeah, I think what you said about really tuning in, Corine, and first, Suzanne, I want to say that's amazing that you're really speaking your truth because I love to hear that that's how you place your at. That's great. And what you said about really thinking about what is making me feel like I can't be honest. what's behind that? Like, what are the layers if you were to peel the onion away and dig kind of a little bit deeper? What's going on? And a lot of times there's so much societal pressures and generational beliefs that have been handed down that we have to follow a certain way and behave a certain way and do and say certain things. And we're taking all of this kind of on and not being true to ourselves, but being true to generations that aren't even here anymore, that had specific things they thought that aren't even relevant to our lives anymore. And we're, it's everywhere. TV, news, generational patterning, all of these things that we have to look back. But it's easier to just look back to our family and how we grew up. And what these things, when things were said to us, when someone was honest with us, how it felt to us. Was it painful? Because sometimes when we think back to how we felt, it's holding us back to being honest with how we feel to something else. Because we're remembering a certain situation where it hurt, it was painful, someone was truthful to us and we didn't like it. We didn't, had pain attached to it.
Where like honesty equaled pain or rejection. There's like a connection there that even in our mind, maybe not consciously, but subconsciously, honesty meant those things instead of connection.
Yes, exactly.
Can I add something?
Yes.
Like, but now I get exposed to different knowledge. Like, judgment says more about the other person than about me. But still, besides that, this knowledge does not get internalized inside me.
I hear you. Yep. Yeah, that the judgment says more about them than you, but it's hard to actually internalize that.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, no,
Yeah.
I totally understand that.
Yeah, thank you for sharing that. Thank you guys all for being here and participating and listening and sharing in the chat. Really appreciate all of that. Yeah, do you guys have any other questions for us? Okay, well, I'm going to share Corine's links in the community and how you can get a hold of her and follow her all over the place. And she just started a YouTube channel, so that'll be really fun. If you're into this, you can subscribe, and you know where all of my things are in the group and my YouTube channel and stuff. So if you want more, feel free to come and hang out with us in the free community. I put links in the chat where you can join the community, get your free workbook, get your journal prompts, and listen to many more workshops, challenges, and classes that there will be in the group. So I'm pretty excited about what's ahead. And so in April, there is a class on, we have another free journaling session on the 27th called Boundaries that might be really appropriate for after following this. And on the 28th, I'm running a class called Blind Spots. It's new. It's going to be very interesting. So if you're part of the group community, the free community, you'll get access to all of that. So that'll be really interesting. But thank you, Corine, for coming and participating and joining in this challenge. It's so much appreciation and gratitude to you and for everybody who's watching on the replay and went through the challenge, and for all of you guys here live today. I'm so grateful for each and every one of you who showed up and brought your questions or just being part or taking anything in. And I hope that you take what you need from the challenge, and whatever doesn't work for you, you let go. You don't have to take all of it. You could just start somewhere. And we're all on this journey of lightening our load mentally and physically. And it's a process that just is ongoing, that will pretty much never end until we do. It's lifelong, right? So it's just about growth, about you and your decisions and growth, and an opportunity. I think it's an opportunity for you to really internally align with who you truly are, in the way your house reflects you, in the way your wardrobe reflects you, your car, your bags, your mind, all of everything going on within you. It all reflects. We are all a mirror to ourselves and our environment. So thank you guys all for being here, and we'll see you next time.
Thank you.
Bye, everybody.
Bye.
Thank you. See you later.